Hello everyone, my name is Entourmology and welcome to Entourmology, a series where I take you through each and every one of the specimens in my pinned insect collection to tell you interesting facts about them. Today we are going to be looking at the ornate-tailed digger-wasp, scientific name Cerceris rybyensis. As always, we will start this video by having a look at the data labels. First is the location label. It was collected in West Sussex in the UK, in Oving, in particular my garden, on the 28th of May 2018 by me. By looking at the taxonomy label, you can see it's in the order Hymenoptera, which is ants, wasps, bees, and the commonly forgotten sawflies, in the family Crabronidae, which is the family of what's commonly known as sand wasps, and it has a scientific name Cerceris rybyensis. Its common name is, as I said before, ornate-tailed digger wasp. However, it is also called the ornate bee fox. And I've also included the symbol to denote what sex it is. However, as we will discuss later, this is not actually true. A good place to start with the IDing features is its length. Females typically measure anywhere from 8 to 12 millimeters, and males measure between 6 and 10 millimeters. This specimen is 9.6 millimeters. If you look at its abdomen, you can see it's mostly black with some yellow banding on it, particularly on the third abdominal segment. The next place to look for IDing features is its wings, particularly its forewings. To know that it is a Cerceris rybyensis, you have to have a look at these cells on the wings. They are called the submarginal cells, and there are 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Also, the second submarginal cell, so that's this middle one here, does not reach the radial cell, which is this top one here. I will put up a picture that's more zoomed in so you can see that. You can also see in that image that the tip of the radial cell is rounded. When looking from above, you can see that the first segment of the abdomen, this one here, is much narrower in comparison to the rest of them, and that the other abdominal segments can be easily distinguished from one another due to these deep constrictions. So you see how it goes out and then in, and then out, and then in, so on and so forth. For basically the rest of the identifying features, I'll just put up some macro photos because it's going to be pretty much impossible to show you on camera and the angles will be just annoying. So as you can see in this image, probably, the second sternite has an elevated area at its base, and if you remember from Entourmology episode, you will remember, hopefully, that a tergite is the upper side of an abdominal section, and so in the same fashion, the sternite is the underside of an abdominal section. Looking at its face, front on, you will see that the clypeus, which is one of the face plates, this one in particular, is narrow and slightly protruding, and its lower edge is straight. The width of the hairs on the apical edge of the clypeal side lobes are shorter than the space between them is. I'm sure I'll be able to show that. This is Editor Josh. I think what I was quite so eloquently trying to explain back then is that the total width of the area on the clypeal side lobes covered by the hair is somewhat narrower than the area between the 2 clypeal side lobes. Back to looking at above, the keel, so that's kind of like the ridge/edge between the antennal bases, stops before the ocelli, which are the 3 simple eyes on top of the head which detect light. The space between the ocelli and the inner edge of the eye is wider than the space between the hind ocelli. The antennae are mostly black. The dorsal of the propodium, which is the first segment of the abdomen of Apocrita, which is the group that encompasses bees, wasps, and ants, that is fused with the thorax to form the mesosoma. So that is smooth, as you can see here. The rest of the mesosoma kind of has little dimples, punctuate, and then you've got the 2 smooth areas. To distinguish the females from the males, which I didn't actually know until researching for this video. Females have 12 antennal segments and 6 abdominal segments, and males have 13 antennal segments and 7 abdominal segments. So, unlike what that taxonomic label says, this specimen is actually a male. There's not a lot of information I could find on the life cycle of this species. However, I was able to find that nests are made in sandy soils or in areas such as unsurfaced roads, abandoned sand quarries, or between paving stones. They are dug up to 15 centimeters long with short lateral burrows that are dug out of the side of the tunnels, and each of these end in single cells. Not like the cells of wings, but cells of, like, prisons, I guess. After mating, females will lay eggs in the nests and provision it with food, which is small to medium-sized bees across different genera. So we have Sphacodes, which are blood bees, Helictus, which are sweat bees, Panurgus, which are sometimes called shaggy bees, and Andrena, which are mining bees, or a genus of mining bees even. Each cell is provisioned with 1 bee, with up to 35 bees per nest. When hunting, they prefer to hunt bees which are returning to their nest with pollen and nectar, as it's easier for them to capture. When the bees are caught, they are then paralysed with venom, and their necks are crushed by the mandibles, killing them. Their flight period is late June to early September. As I said, that's kind of all the information I had about their, behaviour. In terms of distribution, there are Palearctic species found in the UK, most of Europe, and there are also some records in Japan and China. In the UK, they are mostly found in the south of England, with some distributions in the Midlands. Their habitat is areas of sandy soils, which can include both inland and coastline sites, and also in areas of heavier soils and chalk grassland.